Alrighty, folks, are the doomers right? Has the lending market changed so drastically that all we are doing is setting up the next catastrophe? What do I mean? Well, folks, if you rewind the clock about 5 years, it is estimated that conventional lending, Fannie Freddie, was approximately 90 to 95% of the market, with the remaining being what we will call non-QM. Well, fast forward to 2026, and Fannie Freddie is less than 50% of the market. That means what was once a tiny quarter of lending is now a massive part, and it is outside of bank regulations. Is this the next upcoming catastrophe? Is bank statement loans, asset depletion, non-QM going to be the next disaster? Matt, you're in lending. What say you?
Yeah. Non-QM lending, by certain metrics has exploded. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing or a scary thing. While there are going to be outliers and you're going to see stuff where it's like, holy moly, somebody did a non-QM loan. They were going off Airbnb projections of,
$6,500 and all that
a month. Like there are going to be some of those, but for the most part, I think the lending landscape has changed because of how borrower profiles have changed, especially when you look at investors, right? Like the investors that we talk to through the ORAC community, and Convoy's having the conversations every day. I'm having the conversations every day. They've got 17 properties. They're self-employed. They're just not fitting in conventional buckets. And forever, they tried to squeeze themselves in that bucket. What do I got to file on my tax return? How do I do this? I've got two.
It was a multi-year process because they needed 2 years of tax returns. Yeah.
And now people call me and they say, like, hey, can you look at my projected tax returns before I file it and let me know, like, if I forego like expenses that I can write off legitimately, should I? And the answer is no, right? Like there's so many other products. And that's why, like, for the second straight month in a row, Fannie and Freddie make up less than 50% of market share, which, you wouldn't have believed 5 years ago that would be the case.
Yeah. Let's play with that a little. I'm going to play with that a little bit. Cause again, going from a market in 2019, let's just call it 90%.
Well, I think you're forgetting about, other non-agency stuff besides non-QM. So like, they might've been at 80%, but
let's call it 80.
A vast majority.
They were the largest elephant in the room.
Right.
And now that elephant's a lot smaller, right? It's less than 50% the last couple of months. And it's really interesting to me because you could look at it glass half full or glass half empty. The glass half full way is the other parts of the market have found a need and they're filling it, i.e. conventional lending to business owners was nearly impossible unless they wanted to jump through multiple years of hoops and forego expenses and all this stuff, because conventional was the only way to go in 2018, or the predominant way. Now, there are people that say, hey, just give me your last 6 months or 12 months of bank statements. Let me see the money come in, money go. And, that will be a way we could do it. Also, there's now this asset depletion, right? Where you have a bunch of assets that you don't want to just throw at it. You can lend that way. I think what it just shows is, I think for the longest time, we wanted push button, approve, not approved. And that's just not, that's not, certainly never was everybody. But I think we're realizing now it may not even be most people, especially if Fannie Freddie is sub 50 now.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is the market has filled a need. And, by my account, like the borrower is changing faster than agency guidelines. Because if you look at guidelines, they're way outdated, right? Like W-2 employee, predictable income, easy tax returns, like
TurboTax, push a button.
Right? Yeah. Like I get an investor or somebody who comes across my desk and they're self-employed, business owner, 1099 contractor, real estate investor, or, retiring or transitioning. And you look at it from a make sense perspective. This person has 2.5 million in assets, and, they've got a self-employed business that has $120,000 a month in deposits. I'm of the mindset that, like, this is a loan with much less risk than somebody with W-2 employment. They make $8,800 a month. Agency stuff will let them for all intents and purposes, have debt that equals 50% of their gross income. You know, the state takes their health insurance, their this, their that, their other. They take home $6,200 a month, and you're telling me that like you're comfortable with them having $4,400 a month in, you know, payments between mortgage, student loans, and other stuff. Like that's risky. A self-employed borrower who's run a business and found a way to make things work for 14 years, like I like that borrower.
I like that odds better. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They don't fit into an agency box doesn't mean they're a bad risk. Right. And just because they're using a different loan product doesn't mean that like it's more risky. In many cases, I would argue they're much less risky.
Well, let's poke at that a little bit. Because again, I think a lot of people who may have PTSD from the GFC, I mean, there was a time back in 2006 where more than 50% of loans were adjustable rate mortgages. And, you know, there was the famous Alt A and subprime and all of that stuff. And Alt A is really what blew up and caused the catastrophe. So not even subprime. Subprime was probably the spark, but it was Alt A that became the massive catastrophe.
Agreed.
So I think when you look at this new era where non-traditional or non-conventional loans are predominant, I think it's fair to say, are they riskier? And the answer, near as I can tell, and I want you to correct me, the answer is no. Because A, they're likely paying slightly higher rates than traditional, right? Afford the risk. B, they're requiring real down payments, right? The bank is protecting themselves. These are not 103% loans like they were last time. These are real, legit loans with real down payments. So this is probably not a repeat of the GFC, but what say you?
Right. Yeah. And I think that anybody who's trying to, you know, spread, you know, fear porn or anything like that, and is talking about comparing this in any way to the great financial crisis, we're talking about stated income loans. We're talking about neg am. We're talking about Apple
liar loans. Yeah.
Right. You're like, it's total apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that I'm talking about, bank statement loans and, you know, DSCR loans, these loans, like you said, require a larger down payment. They require you to show financial aptitude in some cases. Like these lenders aren't stupid. They're not setting themselves up to explode. And so, yeah, somebody with massive amount of assets doing asset depletion, I don't feel like that's very risky. A DSCR loan, we're like, hey, listen, we're going to use long-term rents that show up on a rent survey, and you've got to put 25, 30% down to make this 1.0 debt service ratio work. Not risky. They still have to have a great credit or decent credit. And then, you know, the bank statement stuff, I deal with so many self-employed borrowers, which, you know, if you're self-employed and you haven't heard of this or haven't seen this, and you went to Chase and they said, nope, sorry, you know, your tax return shows
you're out.
Net income of $56,000 a year. You can't qualify. Well, yeah, but your top line is this, and you're, you know, writing off depreciation, writing off other stuff. There's $130,000 a month going into your bank account. You can find a way to make this $6,000 a month mortgage work. And, you know, for a lot of them, like they've got great credit and assets. I'm not going to just let that explode, you know, because they can't make a $6,000 mortgage payment. So I think that it's more of a sign of the need of the borrower for these products has increased, and lenders are coming in saying, okay, we'll fill that need. We need to have other products that fit this. And a lot of stuff was learned during the great financial crisis. So sometimes borrowers are like, man, why do I got to show this? Why do I got to show that? Why I got to do this? Well, you know, lenders are protecting themselves.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Right. You know, and so, yeah, you look at this stuff and, you know, comparing it side by side with some of the stuff that's approved conventional, just because that's the way it's always been. Mm-hmm. These would be, you know, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, less risky, in my opinion.
No, I think it's really cool. Well, I think at the end of the day, if you've been told no by conventional, if you are a business owner and you don't think you can buy properties, I think the lending market is changing in your direction. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, Matt, and see what's going on, how do they do that?
Easiest way is just go to mtmg.com. I got people on there every day, you know, interacting with the team, scheduling calls. You know, if you go in there and give us some information and are just using the chat feature, we're going to get you answers. I'm going to point you in the right direction, if nothing else. Because just because you've been told no by a, big stuffy institution that's doing it the same way they did it in 1984, doesn't mean there's nothing available for you nowadays. And really, like, it's always been my greatest joy as a broker is the optionality of, we've got all kinds of different lenders, different ones specialize in different stuff. Some lenders, even if they're getting into non-QM, probably shouldn't be, and they should stick to what they're good at. Other lenders, that's almost all they're doing. And I talk to account executives every single day. They call me, hey, we've got a new product, we're doing this. And I ask them the same question every time, Mike, what do you guys specialize in? That's what I want to know. As a broker, I want to know non-QM stuff. These 3 lenders are really good at it. Bank statement loans, man, these lenders do a ton of business with bank statement loans. They're really good at. Like, I've got, different lenders that have vastly different rules when it comes to how we count, the DSCR ratio, what type of expense factors they use on bank statement loans. And, this stuff is new enough to where, I talked to a buddy this morning who did a bank statement loan with somebody who probably doesn't specialize in it, is my guess, because the terms they got sucked. But it's out there. It's a need and a probably overdue filling of a lending void, because the average borrower in 2026 doesn't look a lot like the average borrower 5-10 years ago.
I agree. Yeah. Folks, at the end of the day, 2 things. 1, if you have mortgage questions, leave them in the comments. Matt and I are always happy to riff on topics that are interesting to you, the viewers. So again, if you have mortgage questions, let us know in the comments below. And again, just go to mtmg.com if you want Matt and his team to look at something, give questions, anything of that nature. Matt, you're amazing. Have a good week.
Thanks, Mike. You too.